About 90 years ago, in 1927, my grandfather, Yeap had the pleasure of meeting Dato Paduka's great-grandfather, Tun Tan Siew. Since then, the two men forged a special bond that lasted many decades. It is through their special alliance that my family got involved in education. After the Great Depression, many Chinese-owned banks collapsed. Three in particular, the Ho Hong Bank, the Chinese Commercial Bank, and the Overseas Chinese Bank. Allowing the three banks to collapse would have led to a systemic risk without a central bank to avert a financial crisis. Dr. Lim Boon Keng, a notable Chinese business leader, called for a meeting amongst bankers. These bankers included Choo and Ching. The solution was to merge the troubled banks by pumping fresh capital. Both Choo and Ching then became the founding shareholders of the newly merged bank, or OCBC, as we know of it today. As time went on, the two men got to know each other well and met occasionally in Singapore, as I do remember being brought along for a few meetings when I was about 5 years old. These meetings led to another major milestone in our country's development. After World War II, a number of local movements in India, Burma, and Malaya campaigned for independence. Ching was one of the proponents of this movement in Malaya. To prepare for independence, the Carr-Saunders Report of 1948 recommended the immediate establishment of a university in Malaya. Hence, the Raffles College and the King Edward College of Medicine in Singapore were merged. Challenged by the lack of resources, the founders' support from the business community, including Choo, who became a significant donor to the university fund. University Malaya was inaugurated in October 1949. Malcolm MacDonald, the Commissioner General and the University First Chancellor, saluted it as the crucible of the Malayan nation. I'm only given 10 minutes to do this presentation, but I would like to ask for an extra 10. This was a letter from Ching to my grandmother, obtained with permission from Institute of Southeast Asian Studies. Note the word secret mentioned in 3 times in the letter. There were also clear instructions for my grandmother to tear out the letter after reading it. The letter informed Choo that he, Ching had spoken to the government about an award for Choo's services to the country. The important point to note about the letter is not so much the award, but the sincere care and affection Ching had for the old man. Being a man of principle, Ching would not have disclosed the information before the event took place. but he was willing to bend the rules, so to speak, as he wanted to make Choi feel better, since Choi was not in the best of health. As for the award, it was unfortunate Sir Henry Gurney was assassinated the same day the letter was written, and Choi passed away 7 months later. Now let's move on to Choi's will. Cheng Lok was an advisor and witness to his will. It was written by Drew and Napier, a well-known Singapore law firm. Again, showing the faith Choi had in Cheng Lok. There were several trusts created in the will to ensure his family and the generations beyond are provided for. That was a fairly common feature in the wills of that era and even now. What was special was the creation of the Yap Choi Endowment Trust, a trust created to look after the community beyond Choi's lifetime. The Endowment Trust owned several properties, including homestead and the buildings along China Street, Huat, from Wisma Yap Choi to Bangunan Wawasan, as they are called today. These are the 4 buildings that was in the Endowment Trust. How the trust worked was as such: the assets in the Endowment Trust would go to charity, either to education or for the relief of the sick and poor. That is 20 years after the demise of my generation. This is an excerpt of the will. For the relief of sick or poor Chinese persons, those days, and for or towards maintaining schools or for educational purposes, for religious purposes, or for purpose beneficial to the public. Today, Wawasan, however, I accelerated the trust period in 2003, but kept its objective intact. This was after a meeting in the year 2000 with Tun Dr. Lim Keng Yek, who wanted to start a university. To fast forward the trust period, we had to obtain a vesting order by the court, which assigned all the assets from the Endowment Trust into Wawasan Education Foundation, or what was known formerly as the Gerakan Education Foundation. Today, Wawasan Education Foundation owns Wawasan Open University, a not-for-profit institution which offers working adults access to quality education. The foundation also owns District College. The building that was vested from the Endowment Trust are put in good use. Homestead as this main campus of the university, while the rest are used to generate rental income to subsidize the running of the institutions. For a man who was illiterate, education was important. Choi detested idleness and wastage. In his mind, if he were to give money away, it would be in aid of supporting institutions that help others help themselves. Through his trusted friend, Cheng Lok, they crafted a visionary will, even by today's standard. to not only look after his family, but the community beyond his lifetime. Now I have to thank Mrs. Ang Chui Hong for helping me to do this presentation, and also my daughter Yeap, who did research for this story. And last but not least, the staff and management of Wawasan Open University, I have to say thank you.
Thank you very much for this very good second appetizer. I was actually extremely impressed, Dato Sri Stephen, but actually the will, look at it very carefully, was explained in Malay and Hokkien to which was, it was explained in Malay, which is truly Malaysian, truly Malaysian.